Welcome. How's everyone doing? My name is Elliot Mason. I'm in my padded practice cell. We're talking about single tonguing today. This is actually a video response to an interview that I just did for BTS, British Trombone Society. I have 2 video responses to do with that interview, so check out that interview. I'll put some links somewhere and you can check the full interview out. But today, this is in response to a question where I was asked about an exercise that I feel is really important that I do that helps just a variety of things in my playing. And this is one. This is kind of like my meat and potatoes, and it's single tonguing, which I kind of use, I would say 90, maybe even more, 90% of the time. Why? Because I like the shape of the note. I feel like it's like my largest shape of the note, and so full sound in all registers, and I can also kind of accent whichever note I feel like, and also jump around, where with other tonguings sometimes it's hard to do that with the second syllable or stuff like that. So this is why I try and use single tonguing for the majority of the time. All right, so what's the goal? The goal is, with this exercise, is kind of like a couple of things going on. Firstly, it's not just on one note. So you can start with this one note and just really listen to the sound on that one note. But why I like this is it's kind of like a 4-note grouping cell that's moved around and goes through different registers. And you can kind of hang on to that spot where you feel you like the shape of your note. So this, kind of move the exercise to the way that you play. So in other words, I like to start on that kind of D, resting on the first ledger line up, or maybe B flat, maybe F above that. So I'm kind of listening to that sound and I'm trying to keep that same shape of the note as I'm getting into kind of areas that it's harder to keep that shape. So like the lower register, the higher register. And then this cell is kind of moving. The default one is going down in half steps. It's kind of moving either down or up. I spend a lot of time I always do, on the low partial, because it's the training ground. If you can do it there, you can pretty much do it anywhere over the horn, because you're just dealing with air and aperture and this latency before the note speaks. And so it's really something that I feel like if I can get a full sound and be fluid in that area, I know that I'm at least warm, or I'm feeling good about how my tonguing is. So we start with the 4 notes. It's really only 4 notes. And then we move that in whichever direction. So. So on. So, really deal with it slowly and really trying to get the sound that you like and the shape of the note first, and then start to kind of deal with fluidity with it and speed it up and push yourself out of your comfort zone. So you could use the metronome as a reference, but it's just a reference. It's just a reference. Don't get caught up on that, because a lot of times, if you really deal with the consistency of it and opening up your sound, you can change your tonguing, your approach to the instrument, and be really, really doing a lot of positivity, but at the same time, you don't really have like a reference to come back to and say, oh yeah, but now I can do it at 300, 350. So don't always get caught up in the number. That's good for speed, but it's not really great for all the other things. Okay, so a few things to think about when doing the exercise. One, the main thing I would say would probably be the airstream. So try not to kind of turn the airstream on and off. like think of it as a faucet and just think of it on the whole time. If you start like actually kind of changing the airstream, then that's when, for me, like inconsistencies come in. So it's almost like think of it as one note, and then you're just slicing that water or that airstream to kind of create that desired shape of note. And that's all different for everyone, like depending on where you want to put your tongue, whether it's like at the top or the middle. I mean, I kind of just, it's metal on flesh and we're human, so just find where you like it, the position. But understand as you get faster, as we start dealing with more fluidity, obviously the less movement that you have is going to be easier to play faster. If you have something where there's a kind of a large movement there, then you're only going to be able to play as fast as that movement. So sometimes, you can kind of make a change as you start to get faster in the position of where your tongue is, to try and enable you to either make a little bit of a sacrifice, maybe with the sound, the shape of the note, but to enable you to keep the tempo. So another thing to think about would be also to try and connect your embouchure settings from low to high, high to low, like understand your weaknesses, in which direction you're going. Can sometimes cause a problem. For instance, some people can just play their highest note and go all the way down to their lowest note without a problem, but you do it in reverse, and suddenly you're not kind of getting into your right embouchure setting. So something like this, as you're going from low to high, you can say, okay, don't cheat and breathe and take the mouthpiece off and kind of re-put it where you need to. Stay in that setting and understand that you need to maybe move it in a certain direction slightly to get to where you're comfortable in that range. And that can kind of make it very apparent as you're doing this, that, okay, why does my sound like this? Oh, okay, I need to readjust. That's what I'm doing. I mean, to begin with, understand it, but work towards kind of eliminating it. We can now start changing it into whole steps. So that would be okay, minor thirds. And that B to B flat is the nastiest. Major thirds. And now we have fourths. Okay, and so the idea of moving this down in whole steps, minor thirds, and so on, is so now we can actually preparing ourselves to play a phrase and just move it around and be able to move it around all over the place. And so this exercise now you can start, once you feel comfortable with fourths, fifths, sixths, and even sevenths. I mean, you kind of get through the horn very quickly, but you can kind of just start to get comfortable with these leaps. Then you can start to maybe improvise the leap. So in other words, start with a note and then just wherever you hear the next note, it could be close, could be far, and kind of start to put the exercise as more of a back seat, and then try to just hear where you're hearing it going. And then maybe the final thing to do with it would be to start the exercise and then go into maybe an improvised line. So you start it, you go into the line, you come back, keep kind of coming back to connect the two, because the goal is we do not want like an exercise that we can do really well or an etude that we can do, but somehow it doesn't really translate to our playing. And that's kind of what I see a lot with students. So the goal here is to kind of be able to do this exercise and bring it in and make sure it's tied in, and we're kind of coming back to the way we play, and we're not just doing something different to enable us to do this exercise, but then when we play, somehow we slip into something else. So that would be the goal. And even if you don't improvise, maybe go into an etude or go into a piece that you're working on and come back and really try and just kind of combine the two. I hope I've helped in some way. You can download the PDF of this exercise, which explains it a lot better than I did right now. ElliotMason.org. Just go to the shop. it's free in there, so snoop around, maybe you'll find something else. Hopefully there'll be more. All right.